Live from MMA Fighting Studios, this is Between the Links. And now, your host, Mike Heck.
Always fired up when the iconic voice of Esther Lynn introduces this program. Welcome to a brand new edition of Between the Links. It is a big week in combat sports. Apologies for the delay, but we are here, we are live, and we are on the eve of UFC 279, Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz in the main event. We're coming off of a fun UFC Paris event over this past weekend, and there's a lot to discuss. So we're going to get right into it. But real quick, as you can see, it's once again around 1 p.m. Eastern. This will be the new start time moving forward on the show. So no longer 3 Eastern. We're shifting back a couple of hours, so mark your calendars accordingly. 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, the new start time for BTL moving forward. Now that that is out of the way, let us introduce the panel for this week, the combatants, if you will. First, he's coming off of a victory over New York Rick last week in a very positive yet spirited affair. He's from No Bets Barred. He's from Damn They Were Good. He's Mr. No Gray Area himself. He's bringing takes so hot and spicy, you need to have a gallon of milk sitting right next to you. Jed Meshew, how are you, buddy?
I am so glad I beat Rick last week just because he's coming out and on the MMA Hour, great program, Parlay, throwing out Kevin Holland as a parlay piece. Come on, my guy. D-Rod, we're going to get into it. Danny Rodriguez going to do the damn thing, and Rick's going to blow up the whole MMA Hour parlay on his own. So I'm glad the fans knew the right choice to pick me, the correct decision as always.
There you go. And joining us for the first time on this show, let us welcome in a pro fighter that wears a lot of hats. She's fought in the UFC, Invicta, BKFC. She was successful in her pro boxing debut last month for Gamebred Boxing. Does color commentary for events such as Jorge Masvidal's Icon FC. And from the many conversations we've had over the years, one of the very sharp minds in the combat sports space. She just does it all as we say hello to Pearl Gonzalez. Pearl, how are you? How are you feeling for this program here?
Hello, good morning. I am ready to kick his ass. That's what I'm ready to do.
Yes! We are off to the races right off the bat. Well, let's see how this all plays out. Let's get into it. We're going to go backwards to start here because, you know, in a sandwich, the bread is an important part of the sandwich. You need good bread to make it pop, but it's the meat, the stuff in the middle that really makes it delicious. So at the top of the proverbial sandwich that is BTL, we're going to start with UFC Paris. It was a fun event. The local fighters showed out 5-0 for the French athletes, which was capped off by the former interim heavyweight champion of the world, Ciryl Gane, stopping Tai Tuivasa in a super fun main event. And it looked a little bit hairy for Mr. Gane when he got caught with the big right hand and floored in the second round, but he got back up and eventually went out there and finished the fight. So Jed, we'll begin with you. This could be from the Gane side. It could be from the Tai side. What was your biggest takeaway from this fight?
As I said, both of those dudes are shoe leather tough, man. Like, honestly, I came into that, and we talked about it a lot, Mike. I came into that, I gave Tai Tuivasa very, very little chance just because Ciryl Gane's the best striker in heavyweight MMA, like, pretty cleanly. And I still think that is true. But the fact that Tai was able to find the shot, hurt him, we learned a lot about Ciryl because Ciryl was able to power through, you know, the dim mock death touch right there. He got through, fought it out, and came back. And conversely, Tai Tuivasa, there was just zero quit in that man. We knew he was tough, but I don't think I ever knew he was that tough because even when he fought Derek Lewis, he maybe got hurt at times. He didn't get that hurt that frequently. I don't know that I've ever seen a man get hurt that many times in a fight and just continue to battle through it. I mean, the head kick that Gane landed that put a jolt through him for a minute, the numerous body shots that kept having Tai doubled over. Like I just don't understand what stitches Tai Tuivasa together because I don't even want to say a lesser man, like just any other man alive would have crumbled far sooner than he finally did after so much punishment. So, I mean, yeah, we can talk about, you know, what's next and where these guys rank, et cetera. But for me, easily the biggest takeaway the whole weekend was both those dudes are just so friggin' tough.
Pearl, what do you think? What was your biggest takeaway from Ciryl Gane's win over Tai Tuivasa?
Oh my goodness. First and foremost, let's talk about the body shots and how good was his game plan going into that fight, knowing I think that Ciryl Gane gave a lot of respect to Tai Tuivasa. He knew it wasn't going to be an easy, get him out of here. He knew that he was going to have to fight. And so what a beautiful game plan to attack the body. And he attacked it with his long legs, and that's the longest strike on our bodies. Ciryl, knowing that he's the longer, lengthier opponent, really utilized that to the best of his ability. So I thought that was just an absolute amazing game plan. Secondly, from Ciryl Gane, I saw his lateral movement and the way that he was moving side to side, not in and out. I mean, he did do a little bit of in and out, but more so laterally, side to side, looking and finding and searching for these angles. You don't see heavyweights move like that. Obviously, and I do agree with John here, he said that he is one of the best strikers, or if not the best striker. I agree 100% he is. But man, the game plan, the composure of Ciryl Gane in that fight, the ability to come back from that big shot that he took and stay composed and remain calm and still find these shots, find that body shot. And for Tai, geez, how many of those do you think was he ready to just crumble and lay down to? Those body shots were nasty. He was getting poked right in the sternum. And if you don't understand what that feels like, especially like when you're breathing, if you get hit with one of those, it shuts down your breathing. And so to constantly take those and bite down on his mouthpiece and still try to find shots was incredible. I knew that Tai, I agree, I thought that Ciryl was the better of the two in striking, but I also knew that Tai just needed one good shot. And if he could land that one good shot, it could be lights out. So it was a fantastic performance. All I have to say is what an exciting time right now for heavyweights, for the male heavyweight division in all combat sports. But yeah, what an incredible game plan by Ciryl to attack the body first, to break the body down, and then find the closing the show shot.
Yeah, the composure isn't something that's really talked about all that much because he's coming off the loss to Francis. He's fighting in front of his home crowd, first UFC event in the area. Cool as a cucumber the entire time. So, Pearl, things are now very interesting. You talked about the state of the heavyweight division. It's in a decent spot, but it's also a little bit in shambles right now because there's so many unknowns, right? What's Francis going to do? Is he going to resign? What's going on with the belt? What's going on with John Jones and Stipe? There's a lot of questions, and the UFC has pretty much set up this sort of mini contendership Grand Prix with Gane and Tuivasa and Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades, and Blades beat Tom Aspinall. Not what anyone wanted to see with Aspinall's injury, but it is a win. So naturally, the direction should probably be Ciryl Gane versus Curtis Blades next, but Gane has been no-selling it, saying he wants a title shot. He doesn't seem at all interested in any way, shape, or form with fighting Curtis Blades next. Do you think Ciryl really has a leg to stand on here? Do you think it's definitely Curtis Blades and he doesn't really have a choice here? Or do you think the UFC might go in a different direction?
I think that it makes a lot of sense for Curtis Blades and Ciryl Gane to fight, especially due to Cyryl's last fight against Ngannou when Ngannou out-grappled him and won the fight via grappling. And we know that Curtis Blades is one of, if not the best wrestlers / grapplers in this division. So it makes a lot of sense to give not only Curtis Blades that opportunity because he's deserving, he's been winning, he's been putting on great performances, but to see if Ciryl learned from that last test that he had in which he didn't win that test. He didn't pass the test, so to speak. But at the same time, you have John Jones that is really teasing here. I love that fight of Ciryl and John. I mean, I think that those are two incredibly talented, very knowledgeable strikers, and to see those two would be a striking clinic for the world to kind of watch and see how that plays out. But it is the division is in there's a lot of questions, but that's what I think makes this so exciting because there's so many different matchups that you can make. And then when Aspinall comes back, seeing him, I think that I would like to see him fight Curtis Blades and see how that fight plays out. We didn't get to see anything in that fight. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, which makes this so exciting.
Jed, I just don't see how this goes any other way unless just multiple dominoes fall in Gane's favor. You know, John Jones would be interesting. That's a fight that obviously interests Gane, but man, a lot needs to happen, at least for that to be the next fight, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, not a lot. Two things have to happen. One, Francis Ngannou has to not re-sign with the UFC, which I don't think he's going to do. I think he's going to leave and try and pursue other interests, more lucrative options. But if he re-signs, honestly, at this point in time, if he re-signs, they're probably just going to do Ngannou Jones and Stipe gets left out in the cold. At which point, then maybe then that's up to Stipe, whether Stipe decides he wants to fight. You know, he loves to not fight. He's a huge fan of sitting and not fighting. He's done it for the last 5 years. He's incredibly good at the not fighting people part of MMA. So maybe he does that, and then Gane is left really with only Curtis Blades. Maybe Stipe says, "Hey, I'd like to fight again because I would love to fight John Jones or Ngannou one last time for the belt. So I'll fight Ciryl Gane, and maybe then he avoids the Curtis Blades train." Again, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ngannou is going to leave, and so when he leaves, Stipe and Jones is the thing that the UFC is targeting. It seems the most likely outcome that will happen by at the end of this year. So they'll make that fight, and then Gane's just left with the only guy to fight being, unless like something crazy happens in the next month or so, or Stipe decides to not fight John Jones, then maybe Gane can step in there as an interim title fight. But I think he's just going to be forced to fight Blades, and I hate that. I hate that so much. It's a great fight, two top 5 heavyweights, etc. That's fine, but it's among the least interesting ways you could match up all of these different action figures. You know, like if I had my druthers, I would say let's do Stipe Gane. That fight is far more compelling to me, and let's do Blades Jones or Blades and Gane. Like any other way that you want to match up those 4 to 5 people, I would prefer it. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Curtis Blades is going to wrestle the crap out of Ciryl Gane, and then Gane's going to have to get 2 more wins to get back in the title conversation. And Curtis will still be 5 wins away from a title shot because the UFC has no interest in getting him the belt, despite the fact that he may well be the best heavyweight in the world. So I hate that this is how it's going to happen, but it really feels like this is how it's going to happen.
Last thing before we move on, I do want to spotlight the incredible performance from Robert Whittaker against Marvin Vettori. Masterclass is a word that was thrown on a lot, and I actually think that's the right word to use here. This guy is just so good. He is the second best middleweight on the planet right now. It is unarguable. I know Alex Pereira could shift the conversation at MSG if he beats Adesanya, but right this second, Robert Whittaker is the second best middleweight in the world. But what we do know, Jed, is that Adesanya has 2 wins over Robert Whittaker. One was a very competitive fight. One was an absolute blowout. But we saw what a great performance from a former champion can do following a second loss to the champion, i.e. Max Holloway. So how in the hell do we matchmake Robert Whittaker now? Because obviously if Pereira wins, that changes things. But if he doesn't, what do we do?
I think Max Holloway is the really interesting thing here because a lot of people, my recently defeated foe, New York Rick, I will watch Izzy and Whittaker fight a million times. I said the same with Max and Volkanovski. That fight just happened. Do we forget the world-class ass-kicking Volkanovski handed Max? Like, I was one of the guys coming into that fight was like, that's fine. You want to do it? Sure. But like, Volk's won twice. He's the better fighter. He's going to win a vast majority of these fights. I don't care if Max high rolls 1. If we give him 10, he'll probably win 1 because he's a damn good fighter. But like, this is how the cookie crumbles. Exact same scenario. Like, is identical. If Adesanya and Whittaker fought 10 times, Izzy's going to win 9 of them. And that's not a knock on Whittaker. It's a bad style matchup for him, and Izzy is just a better fighter than him. And there's nothing wrong with being the second best guy in the world at something. It's genuinely incredible. You are better than 7 billion other people. That's okay. If they run that fight again, fine. I'll watch it because it's high-level MMA. They're both very compelling fighters. I don't care at all. Like, I would be content if we never got a third one. I don't feel we need it. I know how that story goes. Fortunately, I think we won't have to get one, because as much as Robert really seems to want that fight, Izzy, I think, has zero interest in it for a lot of obvious reasons. And I don't think things break out, because if Pereira beats Adesanya, I don't think they run an immediate rematch back. Just because part of the selling process for that fight is Pereira already has 2 wins over him. So sure, different sport. It's a tougher promotional thing to be like, I know we sold this as this guy's beat him twice, and now he's beat him in MMA. So he's actually 3-0 in a very, very similar discipline to this dude. Let's run it a 4th time. I think they'll just give Whittaker the middleweight title shot if Pereira wins. And I've been saying it for a long time. I think if Izzy wins, I think he's done. He has nothing left to prove at middleweight. He's beaten all of the guys. This would be the clear and perfect capstone for his middleweight career, saying, all right, I've beaten everybody in the top 5. I beat the guy that people thought could beat me, that had beat me before. I'm done. I'm moving up to 205, because he has said when he wants to go up, he's going to do it right this time. He's going to add on the weight and truly leave 185. So in either of those scenarios, I think Whittaker gets to fight for the title, summer of next year, and without us having to do Izzy Whittaker 3. So hopefully that's what happens, because I'll be way less excited if it's just like, all right, well, Izzy's going to tune up Whittaker again for a 3rd time.
What do you think, Pearl? If you had the magic pencil here, how are you booking Robert Whittaker next?
You know what I think that just excites me a little bit is, what about Paulo Costa versus Whittaker? Paulo looked amazing in his last performance. And then we have Robert Whittaker, who looked fantastic. You see that he's improving every single fight. I agree. I don't think the Izzy fight makes a lot of sense right now, although I'll watch. I'm going to tune in if they do decide to fight. Pereira's here. We really do need to figure out what happens between Izzy and Pereira. That's an exciting fight, yes. But I also, where does Paulo play in this role? I mean, he's on a roll right now. If you ask me, as far as just his marketing, he looked fantastic in his last performance. You know that he's got his weight under control, and he just seems like he's really dialed in. So I like that fight. I think that's an exciting one, and it's a fan-friendly fight. So I wouldn't mind seeing Whittaker versus Costa.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. I suggested an interesting option, and on to the next one, where if things are held up for a little bit of time at welterweight and middleweight after, depending on what happens this weekend, Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev would be a lot of fun, because Whittaker would clearly get a title shot with a win against whoever is the champion, whether it's Adesanya or Pereira or whoever. And Khamzat would be the number 1 contender in 2 divisions. And that's just too much fun in my eyes. But we'll see what happens. Let's move on to Mr. Chimaev a little more, shall we? He's one half of Saturday's main event, UFC 279. The point for round 1 goes to Jed Meshew. It's 1-0.
Oh, jeez.
Pearl obviously hasn't watched the program before, because as most of you who are regular watchers and viewers of the program know, that my points don't mean anything. It all comes down to the end, and this is just for pomp and circumstance, if we're being honest. Just an excuse to play the sound bites. But all right, so we are almost here, everybody. It is Thursday as we're doing this. Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz this Saturday, scheduled for the 5-round welterweight main event, UFC 279 Las Vegas. A lot to unpack here, because obviously it's Nate's final fight in this deal. Chimaev's the 11-0 killer. He's a massive favorite. I just looked, the betting line was back up to minus 1150 the last I checked. So Pearl, I talked about this morning. There's a difference between intrigue and excitement, because with the storylines involved here, there's a lot of intrigue. From most, not a lot of excitement, because as the betting lines suggest, the majority of people feel that Nate is just going to go in there, he's going to get trucked by Khamzat Chimaev, and that the UFC is just essentially putting him out to pasture. But this is MMA. As we've seen in the sport many times, crazy, out of the blue things can happen. So I'll ask you, I'm sure you're intrigued by all of this, but are you excited for it as a fight fan? Are you counting down the seconds to Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz?
I am. I'm excited because I want to see how Nate Diaz plays this out, right? Is he going to come in? Is he going to be super gangster? Is he going to sit back? Is he going to put a lot of pressure on Khamzat? Is he going to get knocked out immediately? Is he going to find some way to get to some leg or limb or back and try to and potentially create a submission attempt for himself? It's a very interesting place. Is Khamzat going to kind of sit back and not grapple and just let them two bang it out a little bit? It is an exciting place, and I'm a big Nate Diaz fan. So in this fight, like I want to believe that Nate can pull something off because, as you said, anything can happen in MMA. It really can. And what I think makes it interesting is what Nate said yesterday when he said, "Fuck it, let him beat me," right? Or whatever his words were. He's accepted that there's nothing like he can't lose because he's already the underdog. He's already being looked at as going to lose. And for me, that makes a very dangerous opponent because you remove all of the fear of losing when you're like, all right, let him beat me. Let him win. And so I just would like to see how he plays out this last performance. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Nate Diaz.
Jed, for those who have been paying attention to our programs since this fight was announced, we've heard your thoughts. And typically with fights like these, the taste can be a little sour at first, and then we get to the card, and then the fight week comes, and slowly but surely the anticipation builds, right? We had the media day yesterday with both guys. We're going to have a press conference later on. Both guys are scheduled to be there. We're 2 days away. Are you feeling the energy? Are you getting that good juju the closer we get to Saturday, or not so much?
No, this fight never had a chance to get me excited. I'm honestly not even really morbidly curious. And on No Bets Barred, great program, my podcast co-host Connor Burks, he's pumped, and so I recognize that other people are excited. They're interested. They may, everyone feels like we mostly know what's going to happen, but there is some intrigue certainly for a lot of people out there. It's just not for me. I think I have one question about this fight, and it's a question that I don't need to watch to be answered. I could comfortably get the news the next day and be okay with it. But because the only question is, does Nate try? Like if Nate goes out, I've been saying for months, honestly for about a year now, that the funniest and best possible way for this situation to resolve itself is for Nate to walk out and tap immediately. As soon as the horn starts, just look at Dana White cage side and tap the mat 3 times and give up. And then he has fulfilled his contractual obligation. This entire farce of a pony show is done. He's free to do the things he wants to do, and we can all move on with our lives. And he's firing a big metaphorical 2-finger salute to Dana on his way out. It's an incredibly Diaz way to end things. It would be hilarious. A lot of fans would hate the hell out of it. It would give me more joy than probably anything this sport has ever done. I think that's probably not likely to happen, though. He's probably just going to go out. He's going to fight. He's going to lose. And it's going to be sad. And it's all going to be very dumb. This is all entirely needless. And this fight isn't for anyone. Like, who is this fight? This fight is for Dana White. It's the only person this fight is for him to send Nate Diaz out with a loss, because that's the kind of petty individual that he is. And maybe it's good business. I frankly don't think it has any relevance to his business, but certainly some people are going to come gunned up for him and be like, this is just smart promoting or whatever. This is just, all this does is make me feel bad. It makes me not want to buy this pay-per-view. I don't care. I know how this fight is going to go. If Khamzat decides to stand up, he's still probably going to win the damn thing. And he's probably not going to. He's just going to tackle Nate Diaz and beat the hell out of him from on top. And I'm going to be sad that we watch this guy that we all respect so much and is beloved have to do this because of the structures of MMA, because of the way fight promotion works and the iniquities between the UFC thing, the entity of the UFC, and the fighters that generate profit for it. And so there's no way for me to be amped about this fight. Like it's not an interesting fight. It is mostly a terrible, sad fight. And the only way that I will ever be like, oh shit, I was all the way wrong, is if Nate Diaz pulls out a miracle. And he's not going to. So it doesn't like that. That's the only good outcome here, is Nate Diaz pulling out a miracle. Everything else is going to make me feel like a worse person for being involved in this.
All right. So you both said some interesting things that I want to jump on. I'll start with you, Jed, because Nate talked to the media today. He's got big plans moving forward. I think we've been talking about it for a while. This seems very obvious. Seems like Jake Paul will be an option at some point down the line. Of course, Jake is fighting Anderson Silva next month. He's got this new promotion that he just announced, and he's a freaking megastar. He wants to be a bird, Jed. He wants to spread those wings, and a win, like you said, would be freaking incredible from a storyline perspective. But if he does that, maybe the UFC tries to keep him around. They back up the Brinks truck. I don't think that's going to happen. But I guess my question is, after hearing what both of you just said, Jed, can Nate really lose here? Like, he can lose the fight. He can get dominated. But very few expect him to win. He's already got a foot out the door. Most people understand what is happening here. Can he lose at all, stock-wise, outside of just getting a red mark on his Tapology page?
I can't lose stock-wise, which is part of why this is so fucking stupid. Like, there's the idea of I'm going to send Nate out on a loss, or we're going to try and boost Khamzat up with a win over Nate. Both of those are fanciful. Like, it's not, no one's going to give a shit if Nate loses, and this isn't going to build Khamzat up. Honestly, Khamzat has probably taken a bit of an L because everybody coming out and being like, your whole nonsense with Paulo Costa makes you look like a punk. So like, this just isn't, it's bad promotion. So no, but he can absolutely lose because it's can fist fight, and he is going to a thing that is literally jeopardizing his life. Not because he's fighting Khamzat or whatever, because he's fighting a person. A professional fist fighter is going to try and physically harm him. He can absolutely lose in this, and that's what sucks about this. Is yes, if he wins the fight, unbelievable, one of the best things that ever happened in the sport. When he loses, it will probably be in a like violent and terrible way, because Nate Diaz is incredibly tough. Like, that is whatever his flaws are as a fighter, and he has plenty. Toughness ain't one of them. Like, this dude will go through a wood chipper and still keep trying to fight. And that's what's about to happen. And that isn't good for your long-term or short-term health. And so it's not going to be a situation where Khamzat, Gerald Meerschaerts him, and then the fight's over and even recover and rebound. He is going to probably take a prolonged beating, which is incredibly bad for him. And it's, as I said, it's entirely unnecessary. This fight, Nate doesn't want to do this fight. Nate just wants to leave. This is the price he has to pay to get out of the organization. And the fact that that's like common knowledge and everybody's just sort of, yeah, okay, like, I guess that's what we're doing. It feels really, really shitty to me, man. Like, really shitty.
Pearl, what do you think? As far as Nate goes, I mean, obviously you don't want to get beat up and injured. We don't want to see that happen. But in terms of like his star power, like, what does this fight do to him? I mean, we saw in the Leon Edwards fight, he got dominated for 24 minutes. He landed one shot, had Leon on wobbly legs, and everyone's like, hey, in the streets, Nate Diaz just beat the hell out of Leon Edwards, even though he lost the fight in, pretty dominant fashion. So what do you think Nate's stock looks like after this fight? And then Jed made an interesting point about Chimaev, because if you're going to book a fight like this, typically it's to get like a new star over off of the name of another star who's leaving the company. But how much more over can Khamzat Chimaev get right now? Because he's already super over already. Beating Nate Diaz, like, how much more over can he get?
First let me say, Jed, I called you John earlier. I'm sorry. It's tough. He is tough. You're tough. I disagree, though. I think that there's a lot to win in this. First and foremost, anytime you're the main event for the largest organization in the world, that's huge. The amount of traffic you get, the amount of eyes you get on you, the features that they're putting out there, all the embeddeds, it's huge for Nate. Then you have Khamzat, and Khamzat's his people and his following that are tuning in, that are obviously, everyone thinks, oh yeah, he's gonna win, but Nate's taking this fight because he's a fighter and he likes to fight. Yes, there's the whole thing of getting out of the contract, but like, if not too long ago, Nate was talking about fighting Francis Ngannou, and he was calling out Khamzat and saying how he wanted any fight. I just want to fight. So this is the fight, and I think that, you know, the whole Khamzat, I'm a gangster, which he is. I've never seen someone sit on top of a cage waiting for their opponent to enter the octagon. You know, there's a lot of fun things that make this fight exciting and also make it for both of these gentlemen to win. Both of them are exposing each of their followings and their what's the word? Let me think of the word. I can't think of it, but their followings, right? So they're exposing that to each other. And then Nate announces his real fight promotion. That's huge for this fight week. That's going to help him build. So absolutely. And yes, he gets out of his contract, whatever that may be. He said he might come back. I mean, for as much as he said yesterday, he also said he doesn't know if he's coming back. So there is that he might come back. And if you really think about Nate Diaz's whole entire career, he hasn't really been the easiest to get along with and to do business with, and he's always kind of been fuck you to everyone. And so a lot of this makes some sense to me, and I think it is. If Nate can pull a freaking rabbit out of his hat and do the impossible this weekend, which is very, very possible, because I mean, look at Juliana Pena and the Amanda Nunes. It could very well happen because this is the fight game. This is what makes the fight game so exciting. If he can do that, now he's the GOAT. Now he's this, you know, now he's immortal in a sense. And he's that gangster that we all hope and wish to see this weekend. And if Khamzat wins, and he wins in a fashion where he makes this fight very fun and it makes it exciting, then yes, his stock rises as well. So I think for both of these gentlemen, it is a win-win situation. For either of them, it also puts them both in a main event spotlight, which helps their platforms grow. So yeah, that's my take on this.
It's a lot of positivity. And we may need that positivity because
I'm not bringing any to this to 279 talk. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Good. I'm glad he's got it.
We're about to discuss the rest of the card. So the point for round 2 goes to I'm anointing her the queen of positivity, Pearl Gonzalez. It's 1-1, trying to get people fired up. I think she sold a couple of pay-per-views with that little speech right there.
I respect the positivity.
Yes.
The positive. Yeah.
So all right, let's head to the rest of the card. And I hope you have that positivity handy, Pearl, because Jed, we'll start with you. We'll have to start off in a different way because you have been very critical of this card from Jump Street, and you've not been alone on this, and understandably so. We do have the addition of Tony Ferguson, who's fighting Li Jingliang in his welterweight return. It's a head scratcher, but Tony's on the card. People like Tony Ferguson. Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez matchup, super duper fun. Love that fight. Irene Aldana, Macy Chiasson, fun fight. There are stakes involved. The rest of the card, yes, there's some fun fights, but comparatively speaking, as far as past UFC pay-per-view cards, this is certainly not the best on paper that we have seen this year. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that this won't be a good watch. So I'm not saying this card's going to stink, don't watch it. There's a very good chance we come out of this saying, see, this was fun after all. But Jed, the closer we get to Saturday, has your stance changed at all? Are you viewing this at least a decimal point for your grade? Has it gone up at all?
It's gone up very, very slightly over the past couple of months. I mean, the Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez fight is awesome. So that just helps the fight card a lot because that fight is, I mean, I would love that to be the main event. That would rule. I would watch the hell out of 25 minutes of those two dudes going at it. The Tony Ferguson Leach fight is awful, and I don't want to talk about it because it's bad. But there's some other things like Hakeem Dawodu, Julian Erosa should be pretty fun. Love me some Jailton Almeida. That dude is appears to be a very, very, very legitimate prospect. Chris Barnett, Huggy Bear, that could be fun because he tends to be at least an interesting individual. There's also just a lot of bad on this, so I've been saying this is the worst pay-per-view in recent memory, and I think that that's still true, but there are at least some things that are better. The Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez fight, doing a lot of heavy lifting to make me not like actively be like, you shouldn't buy and watch this fight card because that fight is incredibly fun. But I still think it probably is the worst pay-per-view in the past year or two.
Pearl, what do you think of this lineup as a whole, start to finish? I mean, we're paying for the main card, right? Fans are going to be ponying up $75 for it. The main card is not all that bad. But when we look at start to finish, 6 p.m. Eastern on, what do you think of the full lineup?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time and a great opportunity for some of these athletes to really shine and put on a big performance. There aren't the biggest names. There aren't the most exciting fights on that undercard. But like he said, I love Chris Barnett. I'm a big fan of him. He's a friendly. He comes out and he's dancing and doing all these crazy flips and dances and stuff. So he's going to make that exciting. But it gives an opportunity for these up and comers, for these names that aren't as big, to really put on an exciting performance and shine. I agree. The Holland fight is incredible. I think that's going to be a fun one. Those two are savages. They're probably going to stand and go toe to toe. I kind of like this Ferguson fight and Ling. I can't even say his name. I like that fight.
Lee.
He's an exciting. Say that again.
You can just say Lee. That's fine.
Lee. Yes, Lee. I can't say the last name, but Lee. He's tied for some of the most knockouts. He's got a nasty right hand. He's an exciting fighter. He's in his losses. He has 3. In those 3, 2 of those were by submission and rear naked. And so that gives to me Tony this opportunity, who hasn't been performing as well as we've all wanted him to. It gives him an opportunity to kind of to bring back some of that Tony Ferguson. And he is creative on the ground. He is creative in his grappling. So to see if he can get past the hands and kind of close that distance and get his hands on Lee and potentially get some sort of fun submission, I think that would be huge for him. And I think that it's very much needed. So that fight excites me as well. But yes, the undercard isn't the biggest names, but it gives these younger athletes, these up-and-comers, the opportunity to shine.
I want to bring this question to you because you are a pro fighter. You have been in the ring. You've been in the cage. This was brought to me this morning on our Twitter Spaces show, talking about Tony Ferguson, because he's had a rough go of it at 155, bad knockout loss to Michael Chandler in May, and he's coming back up 4 months later after that knockout to fight Li Jingliang. So from a fighter's perspective, and you can interpret this question in whatever way you'd like, what is Tony Ferguson fighting for on Saturday? What is at stake for him at this point in his career?
I think it's ending on that note. As a fighter, as an athlete, you believe that you are the best, and you never want to go out on a losing streak like he has on some of these performances. I mean, not too long ago, very shortly ago, a couple years ago, he was, deemed one of the greatest ever, and he was on this huge, lengthy, long win streak. And the other thing with Tony is he's an athlete. He's a real elite athlete. He just wants to compete. He wants to test himself, and he wants to improve every single time. And for these fights, he's had these last fights that were tough, man. That last one was nasty. He's just looking for redemption. And I think if anybody, he's proving to himself that he still is, that he is that fighter that he's always believed him to be. And also not to go out on a note. No one wants to go out. No fighter wants to go out on a note like he did in his last performance. So you need to come back and prove to yourself and also leave the game on a high note. So I think most importantly, this is to prove to himself what his abilities are.
Jed, same question. What is El Kukui fighting for on Saturday?
A paycheck. I think he is fighting for something. He is grasping at straws to reinvigorate his career. I don't think it's going to happen for him. He's 38. He is starting to look quite old. I have always thought that his particular style would not age all that gracefully. And I think he just doesn't have it anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, time comes for us all. We all lose our fastball. He was the second best dude in the world for a good stretch of years. It's an incredible achievement, especially when you're just behind one of the 10 best fighters ever. Like that's a hell of a run. I think he is, like I said, I think he is trying to find a way to get back, to chase the magic, to get it back. And we've heard a bunch of fighters talk like retire recently. Right? Donald Cerrone said this in his post fight thing. I knew that I was done a long time ago, but I talked to these people and they said their biggest regrets were leaving their sports too soon or feeling like they had something left to give. And so he stayed in longer than he needed to. And he admits this, that because I was trying to get it back, I was trying to chase it down and see if there was anything left, any juice left to squeeze out of this. You heard Luke Rockhold say something very, very similar when he retired. I gave this my everything, and I just don't have it anymore. That's Tony. Like, Tony just doesn't have it anymore. He is still a good fighter, and if you gave him worse fighters to fight, he could excel and succeed, but that's not how he's been booked, and I don't think that's how he wants to fight. That's why he's fighting, a top 15 welterweight in his first time in the division. So I think he hasn't come to grips with it. And so he is fighting to either prove to himself that I am done or to recapture the magic and hope to do something. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. And it's going to be 5 in a row. And that's a really, really tough hang. You see why I hate this event? This event is bad vibes, man. Like, it's just really bad vibes. Your top 2 fights are the end of cool people that are beloved. And I'm not even a big Tony guy. I was a Habib dude the whole time. But it's still like, this sucks. Like, this is just bad vibes.
Well, the UFC is not the only game in town on Saturday, and maybe some of these other cards will give us some good vibes. So we will head to the final round of regulation. The point for round 3 goes to... We got to stick with the good vibes. Pearl, it's 2-1.
Speaking the truth.
So we're going to play a fun game, a game within a game. We're going to play a game of what would you rather watch? Because there are other events going down on Saturday besides UFC 279. Let me just look at it here. We have KSW, which will be fun. Not in the discussion here because KSW events are always fun, but it won't get that much play and interest here, which is unfortunate because I freaking love KSW events. It's a big weekend for women's boxing. So hopefully, we'll see what happens because we just found out that Queen Elizabeth passed away. So for those affected by that, apologies to all of you. So we'll see what happens with that event. But I do want to focus on 2 very different combat sport events that are going to get a lot of play here as far as interest levels go for the website. We have BKFC 29 going down in Montana. Main event, Britain Hart. She's supposed to fight Fanny Palumpi for the inaugural BKFC strawweight title. Found out yesterday, Fanny has visa issues. So Teresa Sagala is stepping in on 3 days' notice to fight Britain. Joe Riggs is on the card, former UFC title challenger. He's fighting Josh Dyer in the co-main event. And BKFC cards are always interesting to watch. Also, for those who are into this, and I know you tune into BTL just so we can talk about this stuff, more celebrity and influencer boxing, Social Gloves, main event. We have Austin McBroom versus Anason Gibb, 2 people I've never heard of. Nick Young, former NBA player, supposed to box Blueface, but apparently Andy Foster and the California State Athletic Commission was like, nah, we ain't giving Blueface a license, so not sure what's happening there. Adrian Peterson versus Le'Veon Bell is on this card, so some little running back collision action, some former running back greats. And what I just found out earlier, even Corey Wharton, who, if you watched MTV's The Challenge, he's been on that show a lot of times. He is apparently also fighting on this card. So, Pearl, I'm going to start with you. If you could not leave your house and a magic genie came in and said, hey, I'm going to let you turn this television on, but you can only pick one of these events, and you have to watch this event, you can't find out what's happening at the other. Are you watching BKFC? Are you watching Social Gloves? What are you picking? She's stoic. Stoic with the question. All right, Jed, we'll go to you.
Yeah, frozen by my downerisms. I'm really glad I get to go first because I don't think it matters. I think she's going to pick BKFC, but if she didn't, that would suck. The answer is Social Gloves. I don't think it's particularly close. I'm not one. When half of look, Britton Hart's cool. But I'm a lot less interested in Britton Hart versus somebody on 2 days' notice. And when this next best selling point you have is Joe Diesel Riggs, the fight master himself, that's just continuing the bad vibes train because Joe Riggs still fighting in the year of our Lord 2022. I'm good. I don't need that in my life. I am not here to tell you that Social Gloves is good. I will also say, Mike, you definitely know who, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Anderson Gibb is, just because he's responsible. He is the first man Jake Paul defeated in professional boxing.
Oh, yes.
That dude. So he's responsible for all of that magic that has happened. I don't know who the hell Austin McBroom is. I don't really care about it. But I said this I think it was last weekend that I was covering whatever the other dumb boxing thing that was. And I'm not here. It's bad fighting. Like, it's obviously bad fighting. Some people are very interested in it. I am not in general, but I would be lying if I said I didn't have some kind of morbid curiosity and interest, because you got to think about it like this, right? When we watch MMA, we're watching elite fighters do elite things, the best of the best, high, as Jose Youngs likes to say, world-class competition. And that's great. And I respect the hell out of that. But I will also be just as happy to watch my two buddies when we're out drinking just start fighting each other. We're in the backyard, we're knocking back a few. One guy oversteps a little bit, other dude pops him in the mouth. Now my two friends are wrestling around. They don't know shit about fighting. I'll watch the hell out of that and laugh. And that's what this is, because I don't know who the main event I don't know either of those guys, so that's less. But I damn sure know who Adrian Peterson and Le'Veon Bell is. And so then it just feels like I'm watching my two buddies who don't really know how to fight, but I at least have a history with. I know some things about them. I'm watching those guys fist fight. Swaggy P, Nick Young is hilarious just as an individual person. I only know about Tatiana from Blueface, and I know that he's no longer even fighting, so I don't know who they're going to get for Swaggy P to swing on. But if they can immediately find some random NBA player to beef up with Swaggy P, that will also be interesting and fun, at least in like the stupidest, lowest hanging fruit possible. And then, reality stars, Cody Warren, baby, challenge. Let's go. Like, these are people that I at least have some tacit understanding about, as opposed to the randos who are fighting BKFC undercards. And I don't have to appreciate quality fighting. I can just laugh at the absurdity of it all. So give me Social Gloves all day long. That is going to be a hot take and no one's going to respect it, but I don't care. Influencer boxing is a thing now, and y'all just better get on board.
All right. You heard the Social Glove side of the argument, Pearl. Are you on Team Social Gloves as well, or are you tuning into BKFC if you could only pick one?
I definitely would rather watch Social Gloves than BKFC. I think that the main event there's a little interest in the BKFC. I fought both of them, and I think that Charissa taking this fight on 3 days' notice, yes, she's a gangster for that, but and she's done well. She has done well since I fought her, and she has improved her skills. She had a fantastic camp. She was supposed to fight Paige Van Zandt. She went out to Albuquerque and is over there at Greg Jackson's. And so I'm sure her skills are slightly improving. This is a good weight class for her. She is a smaller 25er. And Britain obviously has been competing. She fought for the belt in her last fight. And put on a decent performance against Ferreira. But this fight doesn't make any sense to me, so I would rather not watch it. The Social Gloves, like he said, sounds exciting just because when you have non-fighters fight, their reactions to getting hit is kind of hilarious. Watching them trying to fight, throw down, it to me is it's funny, so that makes it exciting. But I think what I'm most excited for is the women's boxing, man. That's a big night for women's boxing. You've got two big championship belts on the line. Michaela Mayer versus Alicia Baumgartner. That's going to be a bomb fight. And then obviously you've got Clarissa Shields. I don't remember the other girl's name, who knocked her in her last fight. She knocks the girl out and goes running straight to Clarissa and says, "I'm fighting you next. I'm knocking you out next." So those are two really big fights for boxing. This is a huge card for women's boxing, probably one of the biggest ever. That makes it really exciting. I'd rather watch that than either Social Gloves or BKFC.
All right. Let's get the 2-shot. We heard the arguments. The point for round 4 goes to... I mean, look who's bringing the positive vibes now. Jed Meshew. I mean, you might have just sold...
You wouldn't let me pick KSW. KSW is the correct choice, but you wouldn't let me pick that one.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is a low-hanging fruit show.
Yeah, so I had to pick Social Gloves.
That's right. Okay, so you know what that means. It means it's knockout round time. And I have to say, especially with these two personalities here, I am very excited for this particular knockout round. 1 minute will be on the clock. They will each have the same amount of time to answer the question, or this, maybe answer the question isn't enough here, but I'll go into that in a moment. But once that is over, we will put a poll, if it's not already there, on the YouTube channel, and you guys can cast your vote on who wins, Jed or Pearl. We'll bring in Mr. 3024 himself, E. Casey Leiden, on to announce the winner. So, Jed, you have the prerogative. What are we doing?
I'm from the South. My mama raised me right. Ladies first.
Okay. Pearl, we're going to have some fun here. The beauty of this question is that nobody understands or nobody knows what we're going to do here. So you have been crowned the queen of positivity. So I think you're going to have some fun with this. We are going to live in a really fun world. Okay. We're going to go into the future to a world that not a lot of people feel is going to exist, but we're going to put it out into the ether anyhow. You, while you're Pearl Gonzalez, for this next minute, you are going to be Nathan Diaz. Okay. You're going to be Nathan Diaz. And you just did the unthinkable. You just went in there. You took a beating from Khamzat Chimaev. You flipped the man the birds. And then you went out and you stopped him in the 4th round. You are Nate Diaz. You just stopped Khamzat Chimaev in the 4th round. Joe Rogan's about to interview you, but you just take the mic out of his hand. You have 1 minute to be Nate Diaz. Speak on the mic. Cut that promo on the way out. Your time starts now.
I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. I told you I was going to beat this piece of shit's ass. Fuck you, Dana. Fuck you, UFC. Fuck all you guys. I'm the real fucking fighter. I'm the realest motherfucker in here. That's why I started the Real Fight promotion where all the real fighters are going to fight. And fuck you, Khamzat. I'm taking your money. I'm taking your fucking people. Fuck all you guys. I'm out.
I mean, that's actually perfect right there. That's actually might be enough. And I regretted the question about 4 seconds into it because that was fire. And luckily, I don't think we could be demonetized. I don't know if Jed could beat that, which is even better. That was tremendous stuff. All right, Jed. I mean, listen, these are the rounds you shine, but oftentimes in this game, when you have the champion's prerogative, sometimes it's great to go first. Sometimes it's great to go second. You pass it on. You're probably regretting it right now. So Jed,
super regretting going
Diaz, you just did the unthinkable. You just beat Khamzat Chimaev. You have the microphone in your hand. Go.
Jake Paul, you're taking everything I work for, motherfucker. Like that's it. Like I don't fake ass gangster, Kazmat. I just tapped him. Like I don't even know. I'm so rattled right now. That was such an ass kicking. Oh, there's no, she literally nailed it. Like, you know, the scene in Old School where they're doing the debate and Will Ferrell blacks out and then the Raging Cage is like, I have no rebuttal. That was perfect. That's my answer. I have no rebuttal to Pearl Gonzalez. That was perfect.
Wow. That was like the final battle in 8 Mile right there where Eminem just spit fire and
just
Papa
hang
Doc
up.
Just quit on the stage. All right, but listen.
My real name's Clarence.
Clarence from Cranbrook. All right. I mean, listen, you did get to speak, and maybe your nobility might sway the peeps. Maybe it'll sway the peeps in your favor. You did allow Pearl to go first, Southern Gentleman way. So maybe they will take that into consideration. So cast your votes right now. And while you do that, I will waste some time. Tomorrow, or we get the press conference for UFC 279, which you can watch on MMA Fighting a little bit later on today. Great website, right, Jed? And then we have heck of a warning, 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Great show.
We're going to start a little bit earlier. And then we're going to have our live weigh-in show, noon Eastern time for UFC 279. Preview show, 3 p.m. Eastern. So get ready for that. And then, of course, we'll have the ceremonial weigh-ins. Jose is on site. Saturday, we'll have the People's Pre-Fight Show, 5:15 Eastern time. We'll take all your questions, get your thoughts until the first punches are thrown. And then we'll have all your post-fight coverage, of course, press conference. Then we'll have the post-fight show. And then on Sunday, AK and I live back here, 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday for the matchmaking show. On to the next one. So much going on over the next several days. Casey, have I wasted enough time?
Yes, sir. Yeah, let's just do this. We go.
This is a formality. Let's handle it up.
All right, one moment, please. All right. All right. All right, we got the votes in. Do the numbers. All right, closing the poll.
Do the numbers.
Your winner today on Between the Links is... Oh, man, it's going to be... Hold on. Oh. I got flustered, too, by the way. It threw me off, too. The queen of positivity, Pearl Gonzalez.
There we go. I mean, it was almost a forfeiture at that.
It was ridiculous. Why am I here? Why do I get paid? Why do I get paid for this? This is any monkey can do this. Clearly, Pearl won. Jeez.
Wow. Well done,
Yeah!
Pearl. Thank you for joining us.
West
You don't get
Side.
any money for the win, but we do give you 30 seconds to take the floor and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Good, bad, indifferent, MMA, something you want to plug for yourself. The floor is yours.
Oh my goodness. I just want to say thank you, and make sure you guys tune in. Jorge Masvidal's next Icon show will be in Savannah, Georgia, October 15th. Incredible show. We have Ilia Topuro's brother saying hello to the world and coming in and making his U.S. debut, which will be absolutely huge. Alex Coria fighting. So tune in. We've got some big fights coming. That's it.
I love how you said the
Gonzalez.
magic words. You said the magic words, Pearl. Savannah, Georgia, baby. I can
baby.
run to Savannah, Georgia in like a half an hour right now. So I'm very excited. There's a very good chance I will be in the building for that. Jed, your thoughts on what just transpired?
I'll go. Being from Savannah, got a lot of friends and family. That sounds fun. I rarely believe that I lose this show because I don't. I mostly beat the hell out of anyone put across from me. I'll take this one. I will take this L. Well done, Pearl.
Wow.
Thank you.
Pearl Gonzalez just humbled Jed Meshew. I didn't think.
I feel a
would
lot
ever
like
come.
Marvin Vittori right now. Where I pick up the mic in Italian. Hey guys, sorry, he's really good. My bad. Like that's it. I know Marvin Vittori very well right now.
Wow. Well, with that said, Casey, you could hit the music. You could hit the exit tunes. Try to hit the post like an absolute savage. But thank you for joining us. Big weekend ahead of us. UFC 279. All the coverage from multiple events on Saturday you can find right here on MMAfighting.com. We'll be back next week, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll do it again. So for Jed Meshew, Pearl Gonzalez, our new champion, Casey Lyden on the ones and twos, the iconic voice of Esther Lynn. Maybe we'll take you home. I am Mike Heck. We'll see you back next week between the links. Good night, everybody.
Love you
This
guys.
has been Between the Links, an MMA fighting production on the Vox Media Network.